Okay.
The recording has stopped.
Well, I think we may have just had a technical issue.
May have lost the chief. Oh, here he is.
This meeting is being recorded.
There he is.
Sorry, I'm not sure what happened there. We're all set. We're on YouTube.
Okay, yep, no worries. All right, well, welcome everybody to the regularly scheduled Fire Protection District 4 Board of Commissioners meeting. Now I have on here that it's also a special meeting. So is that because we have the public comment probably as well?
The public hearing, yes.
Got it, okay. We have a quorum. Chief, do you have any information on where the third commissioner is?
Commissioner Cooley just texted me and said he will be here as soon as possible. He might be joining the meeting late.
Okay, sounds good, but we do have a quorum. Let me just skip down to the public comment portion. I guess just for the record, I'd like to make sure that members of the public know that they're invited. They're always able to hear the meeting via Zoom. The information is posted on the website. The next item on the agenda is presentation. Chief, did we need to move our special guest presenter possibly to a different time of the meeting?
Yes, sir. We're going to defer that till 12:30.
Okay. So then I guess the next item would be the public hearing. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. You want to walk me through?
Sure. What you need to do is, yes, you need to announce the opening of the public hearing.
Okay. And that would be now. We're ready to do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the item C on the published agenda is the public hearing. So this portion of the meeting is now open for the public hearing.
And during the public hearing, we'll be looking at, the board will be taking under consideration resolution 2022-4, which is adopting the tax increase for the fire levy, and as well as resolution 2022-05, which is adopting the tax increase for the EMS levy.
Right. Okay, so I suppose I would be asking if there's anybody in the queue as far as wanting to join the meeting to weigh in. Now would probably be the time to invite them to participate.
I have nobody in the queue, and we've not received any emails or any telephone calls or anything. Okay. If you'd like me to give a little background on both resolution, I'm happy to do so.
Yes, please.
So before you today are the two resolutions, as I said before, 2022-4 and 2022-5. These are both an annual resolution that you'll see every year, adopting the 1% tax increase in both the fire levy and the EMS levy that we have. As we all know, we are limited to a 1% tax increase without the authorization of the citizens. We did not go to the citizens to ask them to raise it any more than 1%. So based on finances and financial projections, it's been recommended to the board that we raise the levy rate 1%, which in the resolutions, it'll outline how much actual increase of revenue that is.
Right.
This is something historically District 4 has done for the last over 20 years. And as well, just for reference, D21 will be doing the same thing at their November board meeting.
Okay. All right, Tim, I guess it's just you and me. I guess, first of all, are we comfortable doing this? Again, we have a quorum. Do you have any feelings on whether or not we should schedule this for maybe later in the meeting to see if Commissioner Cooley joins us, or would you feel like maybe just moving forward anyway? I guess I'm just wanting to, talk about it.
Mark, I've had an opportunity to read through both resolutions. I think I understand both of them. I am comfortable with each of them, and I understand the reason for passing both these resolutions. I'm fine with if you want to defer to Commissioner Cooley is here to just confirm he is good with that. I'm fine with moving this till later in the meeting.
Yeah, I've read them both too. I understand, what's behind them. I guess I'd like to maybe suggest that we table the resolution, the formal action on the resolutions until later in the meeting in case Steve does join us. I just feel on something like resolutions and levy rates, it might be nice to have, everybody at least have an opportunity to be present and vote on it.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, so let's do that then. By unanimous consent, we're gonna just table the resolution item until to be determined later in the meeting.
Okay, and just for the mechanics of the meeting, the way it's done is you'll now close the public hearing, and then when you go to vote on it, you'll need to reopen the public hearing, and then go through the read the resolution portion that we would read during a normal meeting, and then close the public hearing, and then you have your vote on those resolutions. You don't actually vote during the public hearing. You close the public hearing, then you hold your vote. So just in case I forget that for later. Oh yeah, well, in case I forget all that later too. So, Sean, we'll be relying on you then if we both forget. Actually, it looks like Liz Loomis is here. I'm going to go ahead and let her in. I'd love for Commissioner Cooley be able to be here for that too, but I can have him look at a recording for the part that he misses.
Sure.
Okay to go back.
Sure. Before we introduce Liz and hear that presentation, before I close the public hearing, I just wanted to ask, just to make sure that we didn't have anybody joining or wanting to talk about that before we close it here for the first time. Okay.
No, sir.
So hearing none, the public hearing portion of the meeting, phase 1, will be closed and probably opened again later in the meeting. All right. Well, so yeah, we get to have a presentation by Liz Loomis. Thanks for joining us. Chief, did you want to do any kind of a brief introduction to tee off her presentation?
Sure. So Commissioner Land, Commissioner Johnson, I'd like to introduce Liz Loomis. She's I'll let her tell you about what she does, but her reputation is outstanding. And we are, it's my recommendation, my feeling, I brought her to the board because I believe we need her help, her specific type of assistance with where we find ourselves financially. Yeah, I'll just let her take it from there.
Thanks, Chief. Hi, gentlemen. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Nice to meet you all. I do have a presentation I'd like to share with you.
Oh, yes. Let me.
I was glad I got off my other call early, Chief. I was like moving it along with rapid fire precision. The city manager's like, do you have someplace to be?
Okay, you should have the power.
Wonderful, thank you. Here we go. Okay, let's start. To do slideshow. Great. Well, I'm going to move everyone's faces down to the bottom and then the top. Great. Okay. Well, I want to thank you for having me to your board meeting. My name is Liz Loomis, and as the chief said, my company has extensive experience working with local governments to help them pass voted revenue requests. And so he contacted me and my partner, who is AJ Chippendale, and not able to be here today. She's at the eye doctor for pending surgery. But I wanted to go through and make sure you understood who we were, what we do, and how we feel we can add value to a levy request. Okay. Well, thanks for that PowerPoint. Usually AJ drives. Yes. Well, this is who we are. So as it says in the slide, I have about 30 years of experience. It's primarily in strategy, communications, messaging, earned media. I'm a national speaker on helping local governments improve communication with taxpayers. I kind of cut my teeth, though, on government campaigns and elections. So most of my career has been in politics, and I've served in office. I've helped people get elected to office. And back in 2008, I decided to get out of people politics and still use this kind of campaign government communication medley to help local governments. Of all the layers of government that I've been in and represented, to me, local government is really where people see the rubber hit the road. It translates to additional emergency personnel. It can translate to additional facilities, replacement apparatus. And these are concrete items that taxpayers equate with the dollars that they spend. And so it's very important. It's not like writing a check to the IRS and all of a sudden it disappears and all we know is Congress is still fighting, right? So that's why I've chosen to make a career of focusing on this layer of government. One thing I think it's important for you to know is everyone who works for my company is deeply connected to the communities where they live, much like you serving as a board of fire commissioners or even serving your community as a firefighter or fire chief. This is something that is a requirement from me down. But you don't really have to ask my folks to go out and join organizations and give back. This is part of the reason they get hired. So for example, you can see what I do. But AJ Chippendale, so I do strategy and messaging for our clients, and AJ Chippendale does client production, plan implementation. She markets our clients, comes up with positive ideas just to raise awareness for their presence in the community. She also does owned and social media and graphic design. I got to tell you, AJ and I have worked together for 20 years, and she's even outlasted my marriage. You might find that funny. I think that's hysterical. Some people get offended by it. But anyway, so that's how close AJ and I are. You can see her community service below. And in the interest of your time, I'll just jump through these. Jessica Sparks is a new employee of ours. We hired her full-time in July of this year. I've known Jessica for 30 years since I served on the Snohomish City Council and as mayor. At the time, she was a local beat reporter for this weekly. She then rose to the ranks of being editor for many, many years. Just probably one of the best earned media people I know in the business. She also handles client production and all earned media interactions. Most of our clients interact with the media themselves, but sometimes we want to pitch a story to a publication or a radio station, and then we get involved at that level. She also does most of the writing. With carpal tunnel and disc problems, she's taken it's a huge relief to have her on board, so I'm not spending 7 or 8 hours in front of the computer. She's also really good writing scripts and with digital media, which is, of course, growing in importance when we talk about communicating with the public. One thing I think is interesting to know about Jessica, she is a regular blood donor. And so she actually got her 2-gallon certificate, right? And that's pretty huge, in my opinion. All right, so that's who we are. So this is what we do for our clients. There are several things that we do. You know us best for doing ballot measures, right? We do mergers, annexations, bonds, lid lifts for both fire and EMS. We've also helped form and fund special districts, special local taxing districts. One thing which is worth pointing out is we have a 96% record for winning elections. And that is because we interview you as much as you interview us. We also don't extend ourselves. We take a limited number of clients per year. When we hit that and we get a call afterwards, we try to encourage folks, if they want to utilize our services, to go for the next year. So we're almost there. We have 1 spot left, which of course I've talked to the chief about. And just to give you an idea, for 2024, we already have 8 signed contracts, right? In addition to fire districts, we work for all levels of local government. So we work for school districts, which people really don't like right now, public hospital districts, parks and rec departments or districts, that kind of thing. So in addition to running ballot measures, which is about, I would say, 65% of our client load or projects, we provide offsite general communication services. So there are a lot of smaller, medium, sometimes large local governments who don't have the internal resources to hire a full-time communications department. So they pay us a fraction of that. They get 3 people whenever they need it. And we do websites and newsletters and news releases, social media, all of that, everything they need. We also provide public relations. So public relations and crisis communications are kind of the same thing, although public relations is usually positive. So sometimes we get clients approaching us to profile or highlight something positive that's happened with their particular government, and we put a plan together to share that information. The flip side of that is crisis communications. Just to give you an idea, I have learned in my career that nothing good is on the other end of the phone after about 10 o'clock at night. So to give you an example, and I'm allowed to share this, I asked permission. The city of Prosser recently had a very difficult situation with a scarecrow. So something happened where someone put up a scarecrow for an annual competition and made out like it was a Karen. So they politicized it. The community got really upset. And so we got the call saying, oh my God, this is going on. It wasn't supposed to be political. Can you help us? And so we just helped them ride that wave of negativity until the news media and community moved on to something else. So that's an example of crisis communications. And I encourage you to Google Prosser Scarecrow, because if anything, you might get a little chuckle out of it.
It was a good story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
Yeah, well, remember, we came in after it happened. All right. So here's how we handle ballot measure clients, right? So there are 3 phases, and I'm going to go into these a little deeper. Phase 1 is when we develop the project and the strategy for the project, and then we set up systems between my company and your fire district to make sure that materials we create are approved, to make sure we maybe can access your website or your social media pages, depending on what you're comfortable with. And I'm actually going into detail here where is on the next slide. My apologies. Okay, so phase 2 is the second part of any project, and that's where we develop key messages for a project and a strategic communications plan. And that's my purview exclusively. As I mentioned before, that's where my brains come in. I also do some writing, depending, but that's really where I spend hours moving words around and developing grids and that kind of thing. Phase 3 is implementing the plan. That's actually quite important, and I'll tell you why. Lots of our clients don't have the internal people who can take on additional work. And we really provide a value-added service for fire districts in that they can look upon us as an external communications department. Okay, so implementing that plan, making sure deadlines are met, production deadlines for things like printing and mail house, making sure postage checks get in on time. That is something that a lot of folks find of value. All right, so phase, yes, Mr. Chair.
Well, sorry to interrupt you there, Liz, and please call me Mark.
Okay.
On the slide previous to this, on your timeline, how would you feel if you didn't have 8 to 12 months for us?
I wouldn't like that. And I'll tell you why, because you lost, right? And did you lose 1 time, 2 times?
Yeah, quite.
Yeah. So there's something going on out there, right? And the chief was wonderful in giving me kind of a breakdown of your district, and how we're approaching your project is different than any other project we've done. So we can certainly talk about that too, Mark.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so here's phase 1, right? I got into this a little early. I think the most important thing to mention here, as I move all your faces up. So we start doing strategy about the project. I talked about establishing processes and systems between our 2 businesses. At this point too, we like to start talking about public versus private efforts, right? We can only educate our community. We cannot advocate, right? So oftentimes when we take these projects on, there is a community-based group. It could be a volunteer association, a firefighter union. It could be some of our clients have foundation boards that get involved. I've had chamber presidents lead the charge. Anyway, the idea is to get a kind of private group together to advocate for the ballot measure. Now, I'll be honest with you, it doesn't happen every time, okay? It just helps. It helps a lot. So having people actually visible saying, vote yes, I mean, it's really worth anywhere from 5 to 7 percentage points. It can be. So it's just something to think of. You know, sometimes our firefighters are too busy, or our volunteer firefighters are too busy. And I have seen commissioners go out and rally the troops, right? Their spouses, their kids, their neighbors, business owners, they know, that kind of thing. And that is certainly something you can do in your own time. You can't do it with any money from the fire district. But if you're at home watching a football game and you make 10 calls to people you know saying, hey, please vote yes on the levy, that is something you can do. Okay. All right. This is the phase 2 where we identify your assets and liabilities. Chief was good in kind of giving us an overview, but we always, for new clients, schedule what I call is an intake call. That takes about 2 hours, and then you can be assured after that the calls are about 30 minutes each month. But it's really important for us to brainstorm and for me to hear issues that you think might be associated with your losses. Also the positives about your fire district, right? That we want both the good, the bad, and the, or all 3, good, the bad, and the ugly. So during this intake call, what's really interesting, the way my brain works is I hear patterns, right? So people, 2 or 3 people start saying the same thing about good things or bad things, right? I know exactly what we need to mitigate and what we need to promote. It's weird. People say my brain's like a computer. All right, so we talked about that. Another thing that's really important is assessing challenges to service and also addressing financial impacts. One thing I said to the chief is that in doing a fire levy lid lift, we are going to have to be specific down to the dollar about what this funding is going to be used for, right? Now, here's the thing about that. Priorities can change, right? So if we go out and say we need, $1 million for a ladder truck, right? All of a sudden, your roof could cave in on your fire station, and that's going to change that priority. You can change your priorities, you can change your target, provided you tell people why. All right, so I don't want you to feel like if we go out and say we're going to raise $1 million for a ladder truck, and then we don't buy that ladder truck, that people are going to freak out. Okay. All right. Boop, boop. All right. So I think I've kind of beaten this part to death. Again, I'm responsible for it. The only other thing I want to say after key messages and the plan, which I developed, is we also want to identify a spokesperson and train him or her, right? In this situation, again, I talked to the chief, Mark, you the man. He's like, yay, you the man, with backup from our fire chief and also the chief of Bellingham, likely.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I'd love to have, people around me that are a lot smarter and more articulate, but I understand that the role I'm in, that a lot of that may fall to me. So that's okay.
Well, if you're in that role, you're obviously smart and articulate. Just something to think about. Okay. And certainly, being the spokesperson, it's not going to be an overwhelming thing, right? And certainly if you can't do something one day, we can have our chief present, right? Or co-present even with the chief of Bellingham. But we'll talk about that later. We also want at this phase to start brainstorming and coalition building with community groups. So we have an extensive conversation about influencers, movers and shakers in the community, community service organizations, homeowner associations, water districts, you name it. Okay, so that's where that starts. So key messages, this kind of gives you an idea of the topics I try to cover, right? The one I want to point out to this group is key message number 5. I do believe that folks, taxpayers who live in Fire District 4 needs to understand the consequences of a no vote, right? And we have to mutually agree on those consequences. In my opinion, I would say, hey, contract's over, you're going to rely on mutual aid, and that's going to increase your response times by 20 to 30 minutes because we can't continue to be subsidized. That's just an idea. I don't want to offend anybody, right? But I believe we have to have a very direct, polite, yet strong conversation with taxpayers, okay? All right. Okay, so again, I said phase 3 plan implementation. Again, this is the most valuable thing that we do for our clients. We also continue to coalition build. If I remember correctly, Chief, you've got 3 different types of demographics. You've got the farmers, right? You've got the wealthy homeowners. And then there was a third, I wrote it down in my notes, but I can't remember.
It's really made up of like I said, wealthy, or not wealthy, lakefront estates.
Yes.
High dollar lakefront estates, just your average everyday residential suburban community, bedroom community to Bellingham, and then rural areas. Yeah, farmers.
And farmers who want to burn their garbage.
I hate to, Yeah.
That's what I would say, right? I spend the summer in Montana and I burn my garbage, right? All right. So, so, oh, I forgot my train of thought. I'm so sorry. Oh, so coalition building. I think it's very important for us to, for this project, find spokespeople potentially in each of these groups, right? So when we start talking about the challenges we're facing to service, we can do, say, for example, website posts or social media posts that profile a farmer who's supportive of the fire district, a suburban mom with kids. You might have gone and the child might have broken his or her arm and you were there to help that situation. And then, you know, someone in their big lakefront house, right, that would see a significant tax increase, also speaking for the need for the fire levy lid lift. And again, these are all factual content, right? None of these folks are going to say yes on anything. Yes, vote yes on anything we produce. Everything we produce has to be fact-based. So it could be for the wealthy lake, and I'm just thinking out loud, the wealthy lakefront resort. It could be an elderly person, a man or a woman who recovered from a stroke or a heart attack, right? And then suburban, again, I'm thinking of a young mother with a couple of kids who one broke their arm, you know, and a farmer too, right? I don't know, maybe they had a fire in their barn or a fire in their field, and North Whatcom Fire and Rescue or Whatcom 4 went and helped them put it out. So that gives you an idea of how my mind works, right? So that's what I'm thinking. Okay, so strategies and tactics for message delivery. I'm going to get into that a little in depth in the next slide, but I want to leave you with this last point. It's very important after you're on the ballot that you continue to communicate with your taxpayers. I have lots of clients, we come in, they spend lots of money on us, right? And then they just cut communication altogether. And then what happens is they try to run another revenue request without us, which is fine, and they fail. Why? Because, you know, people don't just want to hear from you when you're on the ballot. In fact, that kind of makes them mad. All right, so that's just free advice for whatever you say. Okay, so strategies and tactics for message delivery. I want to spend the bulk of the time talking about paid communications with you. We write a lot of newsletters for clients, right? Whether they're on the ballot or not. I don't feel like that's the best way for this project. And Chief and AJ and I kind of brainstormed on this. And this is what makes your project unique. I think we need to send direct communications, and they have to be signed by the chair, right? Saying, hey, folks, this is it. This is go time, right? We've tried to pass a tax increase. We have these capital needs. We have these staffing needs. Our contract is over, right? And if we are not able to get some kind of, or if we're not able to get a fire levy lid lift, then no one is going to serve us. And if Bellingham annexes us, it's actually going to cost you less to do the fire levy lid lift, right? And I don't know if Bellingham's going to go out and annex the whole area. I'm just saying, right? So, and we, of course, will delve deeper into these points before these communications are written. And I'm thinking between now and the fall, just thinking we probably need 3 communications, right? And Washington State says you have to mail to all households, all right? In Oregon, God, I love working in Oregon because you only have to mail to registered voters, right? But your fire district is not so huge that this would be, I think, a super costly expense. It certainly would be less than you're paying me. You know, and I have, just to give you an idea of how important direct communication is, I have a client that serves 325,000 people in Southwest Snohomish County, and they mail a newsletter to all households, right? And again, I don't want to do a newsletter for you. I want a direct written communication from the board chair telling people that this is it and we're in deep doo-doo. Okay. Earned media, certainly that's something that we're going to do to support the messages in the letters that you send to all households. So you can anticipate seeing information. We need to raise awareness for this issue with the local news media. Social media too. I believe Whatcom 4 does not have a Facebook page,
No.
but we can, North Whatcom does though.
North Whatcom does, yes.
Yes, and so we can use that. And also I'm sure the firefighters do both volunteer and career. So there still are ways to get that information out. Another thing that is important, even though it's filled with trolls, is Nextdoor, right? That's going to be an important, Sean, you're laughing. Do you know how many trolls are out there?
Yes, we actually had a little, we've got a lot of experience recently with Nextdoor. How about that?
Ah, okay. Well,
not bad, not trolls, just misinformation. They were actually getting the District 4, District 21 levy lid lift campaign confused with the current county-wide ALS ballot measure. So they were mixing the two up, like thinking, "Oh, good, if this passes, I'll open my local station," when it has nothing to do with your local fire station.
Yeah, so I think there has to be a little bit of a branding effort done too here, right? I mean, I wonder how many people you serve understand that Whatcom 4 contracts with North Whatcom, right? I don't think they do. So that, I think early on has to be like a key message, frankly. How do we get service, right? EMS is done through this levy, and then fire suppression and other life safety, BLS and life safety programs are done this way. And we pay, North Whatcom for the service. Again, I'm just thinking out loud, right? So social media, I do want us to have a presence on Nextdoor. We're not going to have enough time to develop our own page. So it is going to, participants can now see my application. You can see that, right? My PowerPoint. Sorry, I got some yellow message. So Nextdoor is important. So finding advocates, again, in these 3 different types of groups or multiple advocates. For example, I suspect you have a lot of firefighters who live in the suburban area, right?
We do have some, yes.
Boom. So these are folks who can go on to their Nextdoor. And if it's not a firefighter, it can be their partner or spouse, right? And post our information, right? And then if people, we can join Nextdoor, we can have the fire district join Nextdoor as a corporate entity or whatever. And if we see people trolling us, we can determine whether or not it merits a response. That's another thing that we do for you. We can help you monitor social media, but it's much better if you do it because we could miss something. We can certainly monitor. We set up alerts for all the press coverage that our clients get, and we send you regular reports on that. Social media makes it a little more difficult. So again, I'm getting in the weeds here. Own media, we anticipate doing text for your website, and everything that we produce for you is going to go up on that web page, right? We'll have on your website, there will be a separate tab that talks about Whatcom 4's fire levy lid lift, right? And then every news release we write, every piece of news coverage we get, every FAQ we produce for you, because that will be another paid communication piece. All of that gets put up as a clearinghouse of information for folks who are looking for more content. Public outreach, I think this is going to be important for you guys, particularly because you've had 2 election losses. Normally, we have sort of 3 rounds of interaction. That's when the board considers the resolution. And then we have the the rounds where, my chair and my chief go out and talk to folks in the community with a prepared PowerPoint. And then the third round is closer to the election date when our clients, we have them hold Q&A sessions, right? Again, by using the PowerPoint. I think this resolution is going to have at least 2 meetings, right? So, and it's very, I don't want the board to be concerned or intimidated by that. I just feel like we need to be more inviting, more accountable, more transparent, and educate people, right? So I think that's going to be really critical moving forward, is that people feel that you're accessible. They feel that they're informed about when your meetings occur and what the topics are, even if they don't come, right? So I have some clients who are like, oh my goodness, we held a Q&A session, we spent $25 on donuts and coffee and no one came. And I'm like, good, because I know we sent out social media posts and news releases. We put the content up on the website. We did a second media advisory. So we know the message for that client got out, but people didn't have questions, right? Some did, of course, email the chief directly or call the chief. That's very normal. But if you don't have people show up with pitchforks and torches, you're in good shape, right? Usually the more people you get at your meetings, it's because there's a problem. Am I wrong? Yeah, I'm seeing some nods. Cool. All right, so let's keep going. Okay, so I've kind of touched on this. This is, I love that old song. This is how we do it, right? I'm kind of dating myself. All right. So we facilitate the project through regular monthly calls. I talked about the intake call at the beginning of the project. Then once a month, or if you feel more is needed, once a month, we have a regularly scheduled call to talk about communication projects that are coming up for the month, right? And brainstorming on those. And then we also do what's called a completed projects list. We talk about what we did for the fire district the month before and asked for your feedback. We put together a communications team, which is my people, usually a representative from the board, the chief and any executive staff he may want to bring. We want a volunteer on there. We want a career person on there, and ideally an influential member of the community. So that gives you an idea of how we create that communications team for each project. And then, as I mentioned before, we do it soup to nuts. We develop, design, and all the materials, but we make sure that we secure your approval. Nothing goes out without confirmation from, it could be Mark, it could be Chief, that we are ready and the content is fine, okay? Then, once we have approval, as I mentioned, we coordinate production and dissemination of it all, right? Another added value for our clients is we offer 24-hour public relations or crisis communications assistance. A good example of this, I had a client 4 or 5 years ago that was asking for a tax increase when a bunch of firefighters decided to pool hop naked. And so, the local media picked it up. And so we got the call, we got to work, we got an apology, right? So it just kind of gives you an idea of sometimes, things go bad and things go wrong. And our job is to make sure issues independent of the ballot measure don't impact the ballot measure. All righty. Okay, so demonstrated experience. I encourage you to contact these fire districts if you have any questions about our abilities, our success rates, how we operate. There are 2 that I want to point out. Okay, so North County Regional Fire Authority, we've done tons of ballot measures for them. And we actually are signed up to do an EMS levy lid lift for them. The last project we did for them was a fire levy lid lift, and we won it with 87 votes. So, their demographic, I believe, is very similar to yours. And it's a challenging environment to get a tax increase passed. So please, feel free to call Chief Cermak. He's a hoot. Benton County Fire District 4 also. This is our longest serving client. We've been with them 13 years, 14 years. And the reason that this is Eastern Washington, folks, right? You want to talk about farmers in suburban areas because they also serve the city of West Richland. The reason we have never failed a ballot measure for them is because on off election years, we're out there still educating the voters about how we're funded, right? So when we go to ballot every 2 to 3 years with a fire levy lid lift or an EMS lid lift, people understand it's coming, right? And this gives you an example of success in communicating with voters during election years as well as afterwards. Snohomish Regional Fire and Rescue just signed a contract with them. They're pretty big, to increase their board from 5 to 7, right? Not a huge challenge, but next year or the year after, they're going out for a huge bond, right? And so we'll be doing that for them. South County Fire, again, that is the big client I mentioned earlier. We've done multiple ballot measures for them. We're under contract with them through 2027 to run all their ballot measures. And that's going to mean annexing contract cities, a bond, good God, like hundreds of $1 million bond. Next year, we're encouraging them to lift the lid on their EMS levy before they annex cities that may not want to higher taxes, who are going to pay higher taxes after they're annexed, and then we're going to ask them for an EMS lid lift. So this just gives you an example of long-term relationships we have with our clients. I think that's important when you talk about hiring consultants. We're not, one and done. We don't come in and take races that we don't think we can win. As you know, we're very busy. We do not need the money that badly. Now, there are some consultants who may, but all right. So here is the budget that I propose. We'd like to start January 1st, and we want to move it out to August. I can understand certainly about the desire to possibly go earlier, but there are 2 reasons not to do that. First of all, you've had 2 election losses, so people need time. We need time to repeat messages and communicate with people. But even if you went in the spring, right, you're not going to be able to collect the money until the following year. So it doesn't behoove us, and you'd spend more in election costs too, frankly, right? Because you'd be the only one on the ballot or maybe one of 2. So that's why we're recommending August, and August is really the earliest that we would recommend, okay? There are going to be some expenses. Voter files cost money. So what we do, even though we have to mail to all households, is we do what's called a voter file overlay. So we make sure that voters who have PO boxes or voters who vote in our fire district but live outside the area also receive our information. Okay. Printing is an expense you can anticipate. Mail and handling charges. Mail and handling charges for your universe it's going to be very reasonable, right? But printing is expensive now because, of course, like everything else, cost of paper's gone up. One thing we do is use local vendors, and we do not mark up expenses. Most consulting firms, certainly political consulting firms, do. We do not do that, because if I have to pay those expenses and then invoice you for them, I have to pay B&O tax on static information. So I would have to mark up the expenses in order to pay that tax. So that is why we don't do that. Okay, and if you want to see me in person, which we do most of our work remotely, all 3 of my full-time employees, my lawyer, my bookkeeper, and my accountant, we all work remotely. So when COVID hit and everyone was freaking out about having to work at home with their kids, we're like, what? Not a big deal for us. But travel for in-person meetings, if required, is an additional expense. And I'll tell you why. Depending on where I'm at, if I'm in Snohomish, that's a no-brainer. I just drive up to you. But we work in 4 states and I'm on the road probably 5 months a year, like sometimes 5 months a year during the speaking time. And so I would appreciate being reimbursed for travel. That would just be, an airline ticket or mileage or, and I fly coach, right? I rent clown cars. That's what my boyfriend calls them, clown cars. And, I don't have to stay in a nice hotel, right? Super 8's fine for me. So that just gives you an idea. Okay, so I think we're good. Yes. So here's my contact details. Mark, I saw you taking some pictures. I emailed this to Chief, and so he can certainly copy you and the folks on it, right?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So I'll stop sharing. So there's my number. There's AJ's number. And so, yeah, Mr. Cooley.
That is our 3rd commissioner, Steve Cooley.
Brilliant. So Sean, what's your role? Well, you must be a firefighter with a mustache like that.
I'm the division chief of support services. So
brilliant.
If it's not breathing, that's my responsibility.
Nice. Yeah. I like that. Okay, super. So any questions, any thoughts, concerns?
Well, great presentation. That's exactly the kind of information I was hoping to get. So you really nailed that from my perspective. I like the emphasis on your campaign would promote information and facts and be educational, because I truly believe that's our biggest job.
Yeah, don't use the C word, campaign. It's a public education effort.
Yeah. The timeline. So Jason, because isn't that a little bit, isn't she stretching that out a little bit more than what we had originally talked about?
I think we really have two options. We have the April election or the August election. And I concur. The communication problems that we've got to connect physically with our voters, starting with paper, like she said. Her, talking about sending out something, even though the cost is more than, we're not going to get the return on investment the first time out. Mailing a letter to every address in the district, including PO boxes, and then offering, getting them to come see us. The district has fallen down on communicating with the public for over 20 years, short of doing seatbelt checks and pancake breakfasts. There's been no direct communications about the state of the district to the voters in over 20 years. So, and for whatever reason, we lost, we know the reasons. We lost 2 elections in fall of 2021. And so there's a trust issue. And trust issues usually stem from communications or lack thereof, or miscommunications. We've got to get our voters to trust us, come out, listen to us, and interact with us. And that's going to take time.
Yes, they may not come out, right?
Right.
But we have to go to them and invite them
Yes.
into our house, right? But it's up to us to go out to them and force them to see us and listen to us and read our stuff and hear about us, right? So that's part of the thing. Again, I do not want to equate success with huge crowds coming out, with the exception of an open house. And I don't know if you hold open houses. Although with that station, I'd like to do some tours, to show folks what needs to be done. But that, again, just brainstorming.
And our biggest voting block, our largest amount of voters live right up next to the city of Bellingham. And I don't know how many of them know they're in District 4.
Yep. Branding. And do you want to pay $1.50 or do you want to pay? That's going to be a compelling message, right? That's probably going to be one of our messages. Because I know, Bellingham is just as tired of having to deal with this as you guys are. So
Jason, if we went with something like this, how would it coincide with what 21 is thinking about and talking about doing?
21's not going to do anything this year.
Okay.
I think I've been pretty upfront with the District 21 board that the District 4 financing that's got to be my concentration for the District 4 part of my job for this year.
And we agree.
I can't do both. We saw what trying to do both was last time, and it just, until we're married, it's just not going to work. I need to concentrate on one district at a time for a public, what'd you call it, Liz? Public education.
Public education effort.
Yes. I won't use the C word. Public
Thank
education.
you.
Yeah.
It's all for, Commissioner, it's going to be all for all the time. So, and we talked about this with the chief, but because Fire District 4 is in, frankly, such dire straits, we have to make sure it's all hands on deck, focusing just on that election. And then certainly if we have to do 21 in the future, we can talk about that, right?
Okay. Tim?
Yeah, I just would echo, I appreciate the presentation. This is really good information, and I am so on board with the focus on public education. I'm just thinking about the timeline a little bit, and what I'm hearing you say, Liz, is you are comfortable if we shot for the August election, that we could get all this done before ballots come out in mid-July, actually.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and guess what? That's up to us, right? To get it all done. And that's, again, our expertise. To give you an example, AJ, in 20 years of working with her, has never failed a production deadline. She knows how to print. She worked for a New York advertising agency, right? This is cakewalk for her. She's had a kid with me. She's gotten married with me, working from home. She has her kid at home. She is just a powerhouse in that. And I want to reassure you that we will give you deadlines and we will meet those deadlines.
Good. Thank you.
Steve, I see your face. Oh, there you are. I'm not sure when you joined us, but if you heard a good portion of this presentation, did you have any questions for Liz on this?
No question. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you, Liz, for the presentation. I think I was able to catch the majority of it. And thank you for asking that last question, Tim. That was really my only remaining question, was can we do this in time for getting this done in August? But yeah, I don't see how we're going to succeed without assistance like this. I don't think we have the resources in-house to do all this communications work. And so, yeah, I'm glad we had this presentation. Look forward to discussing it more.
Great. And
thank you, Liz.
Chief, you're welcome. Thank you, gentlemen. I apologize, but I have a 1 o'clock with Tacoma. So please feel free to talk amongst yourselves. And Chief, feel free to get back to me either way. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Liz. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Bye.
Well, yeah, okay. Tim, Steve, where do you want to go from here?
I do agree that we need this sort of assistance to really ramp up the public education. I do see there's an agreement in our packet with Liz's company.
Yeah.
Is that something that we need to get a legal review on?
I was going to suggest if this is something you're interested in moving forward to, I should send it to Mr. Quinn to get, just have his purview on it.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
And then perhaps we could plan on, I don't know if we need to vote in a public meeting, we probably do, but we could do that in December once that's been reviewed and everything, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure it would all work out, but go ahead.
I'll have to get back to you on that one. We may have to do a special meeting. Although I'll ask Mr. Quinn if we could do like an advisory email vote where you replied to me, and then as long as you guys, I suppose as long as you agree that this is something we want to do, maybe you could do an advisory vote in this meeting, and then pending legal outcome, move forward with it, that kind of thing. That might be a way to go.
So do we have funds budgeted or set aside for something like this?
Yes, sir. I've included this amount, the amount she talked about, plus kind of spitballed took some funding, or excuse me, some expenses we had from the last levy lid lift from one of the outreaches for the mailer and that kind of thing. So I have built that into District 4's budget, and it is affordable.
Okay, so how about because I mean, if I agree, it makes sense to get legal advice, just because we're going to be entering into a contract. Should we go as far as to say that as long as our attorney doesn't see any red flags, that we would, with his approval, based on the current consulting agreement, that we would want to go ahead and move forward?
I would agree with that, Mark.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that as well, Mark.
Okay, so how about a motion to that effect? I mean, I guess I can even make it since I've already said it. So I would move that we would submit the communications consulting agreement that's in our packet for legal review. And if we do not get any advice to the contrary, that we would go ahead and hire this consultant and enter into this agreement based on what was presented.
I would second that motion.
All right, moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, so Jason, maybe you could, move forward with contacting, our attorney and get this thing rolling.
Will do.
All right. So Steve, one of the things that we had before us toward the beginning of the meeting was to review a couple of resolutions, and that was in the public hearing portion. So I would need to open the public hearing again to then talk about this, bring Steve into it, and then go from there. Okay.
Yes, sir. And then close the public hearing and then hold the vote.
So if there's no objection to bringing this back before us, what we previously tabled, I would reopen the public hearing to discuss the resolutions related to the levy increases. And we wanted to do that, Steve, just because, it was a fairly significant thing for the board to do. So we wanted to give you the chance to rejoin the meeting so you could be a part of that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And sorry I was late.
Oh, no worries. Life happens. All right, Jason, what's next? Did we end this with you? We're gonna maybe
I'll just I'll just give you the 30,000 foot view. So before you is
Sure.
resolution 2022-04 and 20, which is authorize the increase of the regular property tax levy by 1% for next year for the fire levy, and as well resolution 2022-05 that would adopt tax increase of 1% for the EMS levy for the following year. I should add both of these resolutions have been viewed by and approved by legal counsel before being put into the board packet.
So Jason, was there anybody by any chance between now and the beginning of the meeting that wanted to join or participate in the public comment portion of this special meeting?
No, sir. I have not received any emails, nor has anybody joined into the Zoom meeting.
Okay. So I guess we can discuss it more in the public hearing, but Steve, just for your benefit, before you joined, before we would vote, we actually closed the public hearing.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, I guess I would close then the public hearing portion of the meeting, and we're back in the regular meeting, and the items are before us, these two resolutions related to the levy increases.
Just as a point of order, sir, you should probably vote on them separately.
Right. Yep. Good idea. So I guess we can always, discuss things when we have motions to approve or anything. Before I would call for the vote, I would ask, if anybody wanted to have anything more to discuss, but to just keep things rolling along. Does somebody want to make a motion to adopt this resolution 22-04?
I would move to adopt resolution 2022-04.
Which is a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Whatcom County Fire Protection District 4, authorizing an increase in the regular property tax levy of $12,360.45, or maximum allowed by law, which other than new construction is a percentage increase of 1% over the previous year's levy. And this would be adopted at the Board of Fire Commissioners of Whatcom County Fire Protection District 4 on the 14th day of November 2022 by a majority of the members. Would there be a second?
Yes, I second that motion.
All right, moved and seconded. So would there be any other discussion on this resolution 22-04?
Not from me.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 So the motion to pass the resolution carries. So that would move us on to resolution number 22-05. Would there be a motion to approve that resolution?
I'll make the motion this time to approve that resolution. Yes. Would you mind reading it, Mr. Chairman, since I have a small screen in front of me?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So it was moved that we adopt resolution 22-05, which is a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Whatcom County Fire Protection District 4, authorizing an increase in the EMS tax levy of $4,503.45, or maximum allowed by law, which other than new construction is a percentage increase of 1% over the previous year's levy. And this would be adopted at the meeting of the Board of Fire Commissioners, Whatcom County Fire Protection District 4 on the 14th day of November by a majority of the members. Would there be a second?
I will second that motion.
Moved and seconded that we adopt resolution 22-05. Any other discussion on that one?
No.
All those in
Nope.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 22-05. All right. Where'd my agenda go? Oh, levy certification. All right, that is this. Chief, was there
Yeah.
any more on this?
So this is a form that we turn into the county and goes before the council. It is approved. And this is us asking the county council to certify the amount that the district will be receiving next year. Something that is put together by staff and ultimately signed by me, but it makes us all feel better if the board knows what it is and votes on it. These calculations I do with the assistance of another retired fire chief. They're super complex. Nothing in municipal math makes any sense. These are done with, we get preliminary numbers and then we get final numbers. And these are done with the final numbers. And this would be the sum total of what the county is going to disperse to District 4 next year in tax money. This is not your total budget. You have BLS money that you'll be receiving from the county. You also have BLS transport funds, which is or an additional $400,000 on what you see on top of this. So this is not the sum total of your income. This is the sum total of your tax revenue.
So let's say there was, by just a typo or a clerical error or a miscalculation, and let's say that come next March or April, we discover that we made a $500,000 mistake that is going against us. Is there a process in place to explain that to the county and maybe ask for additional funds if we aren't asking for the right amount?
I don't know that. I will find out. But I also at the same time can't imagine that there is not some sort of grievance procedure that you could go through in order to correct the budget. We use districts use budget amendments all the time. All kinds of districts do to amend budgets. You'll see the county council does it multiple times throughout the year. And so I would imagine there is, but I will find out the actual answer.
Yeah, no, I wasn't thinking of a budgetary glitch. I was just
wondering, an actual calculation glitch.
Yeah, to make sure that we actually can ask for the, legitimate amount that we would suggest the county owes if we just happen to make a mistake on this form. That's all. But all right, maybe that's getting too much into the weeds.
Sir, just to hopefully answer that maybe a little better is county treasurer's office goes through these as well, and they provide feedback. They can't do them for us, but they do not hesitate to provide feedback on the forms.
Okay. So the motion would be what? To essentially adopt or approve this levy certification form that you filled out?
Yes, to approve the levy certification for submittal to county treasurer's office.
Okay. Anybody want to make that motion?
Can I ask a question before you make the motion, or I can save it for a discussion afterwards? I was just so I understand for like the EMS levy amount that's in this document, that reflects, is that reflecting the recent rate increase that was voted on?
That rate increase is separate from the district. So that's the county EMS levy. The district has an EMS levy, an independent EMS levy of 19 cents this year.
Okay, so this is our district EMS levy.
These funds come to your district only. These do not go. These are not countywide district. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'm happy to make a motion to adopt the levy certification for Fire Protection District 4 following the public hearing today.
I'll second that motion.
It was moved and seconded that we adopt the levy certification. Is there any other discussion on that? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. That takes us to the approval of the consent agenda. All matters within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the Board of Commissioners for review, are considered routine, and will be enacted by one motion of the board with no separate discussion. If a separate discussion is desired, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda by request. And included in this month's consent agenda are the meeting minutes from October 17th, 2022's regular meeting, staff reports, which include the chief's operations, training, and technical support, financial reports, vouchers, payroll, and benefits. The monthly expenditure payroll voucher was $896. The monthly expenditure voucher is $1,207.20. Total expense fund revenue for October, $750,351.22. Total expenditures for November, $2,103.20. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It was moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And the consent agenda motion carries. Unfinished business. Future of District 4 meetings with the City of Bellingham / community meetings. Chief, were you gonna add anything to that?
Well, I think Ms. Loomis kind of outlined where we're headed with that. I know
Yes.
Commissioner Cooley and I traded some emails, had a short Zoom meeting about some stuff. Between my schedule and his, we've had a little bit of hard time reconnecting since he got back. But I think we've got to start. I feel like we got a little bit of I was kind of proud of myself. We were halfway there. We just missed the sending a letter out to everybody in the community to actually start the engagement process. So I think that shows that we do need some assistance in our outreach, and I think we're on the right path there.
Yeah. Anything else on that? BLS reimbursement?
That was approved by the county council last week with the approval of the EMS levy, which they're not connected, but they are. District 4 will be invoicing the county for $187,714.86. And I expect those funds to come in late December. So
Great.
And was that for last year, Chief, or?
That's for the last 6 years.
It's like 6 years. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Mr. Johnson, sorry.
I'm sorry, we can finish the discussion. I wanted to go back to the public outreach.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is a bit more. So I know we had talked about trying to begin that process with some public outreach meetings in November. And so what I'm understanding now is we want to bring on a consultant such as Liz to help us with that messaging and that initial outreach. Is that pretty much what we're at the point we're at right now? And so it sounds like that's more like that public outreach probably won't start until first quarter of next year then. Is that what my fellow commissioners understand?
Sounds like it.
That's certainly my understanding. That we've said, we need help with this, so we're going to let the consultant map the way ahead for us.
Yeah, she did I like what she had to say about setting deadlines, timelines, and she definitely came across as somebody who's going to hold our feet to the fire and make sure that if we have jobs to do, we're doing them in the time frame that she needs them done so that she can continue her process.
Okay.
I mean, Tim, but kind of trying to read between the lines, are you suggesting, or would you want us to maybe consider doing something else on our own before that?
Not necessarily. I was just thinking her help's going to be invaluable if we're able to do this with Liz. And I think she'll provide some really good input as to what our messaging will look like and how to go about the outreach. I think our last meeting, we were still thinking we're going to try to put some of that messaging together ourselves and have some of that outreach. But based on what Liz is saying, it sounds like she's comfortable we can make this happen in the time frame that we need to get that levy lift out there to the public.
Yeah, she wouldn't really be on our, well, not on our payroll, but I guess wouldn't really be working for us under contract until January 1st.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Chief or Mark, or did anyone ask her that, or let her know that we had thought about doing something this fall? I'm just curious if she even.
I did. We talked for about an hour before, and she wanted the history and what am I doing right now? What's my immediate plan? And what am I expecting the outcome to be on January 1st? And then that's how she built her presentation to you. I can, frankly, Commissioner Johnson, I can hear the frustration in your voice. I know it feels like we're losing time. I think as soon as we signal to her that we're going to be moving forward, even though a contract may only be from January 1st, I would not be surprised if she didn't give me a list of things we need to start doing. I've already started collecting files from the last levy to forward her stuff that we worked on as far as like demographic stuff. I was listening to her presentation today, and it sounds like we'll be signing up for a business or corporate Nextdoor account and getting some of these things started so that January 1, she can hit the ball, she can hit the ground running. So I don't think we'll just be resting, sir. I think we will be doing she'll give us some preliminary stuff to do so she can be ready to go on January 1st.
Yeah, no, that sounds great, Chief. I fully support the direction we want to go here with bringing in some consulting services. And I mean, even today's presentation, she gave us some good things to start thinking about and get ready to go on. So I just wanted to make sure I understood where we're at in terms of the messaging effort. So thank you for the clarification.
Great.
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Tim, because as the chief pointed out, he and I haven't had a chance to connect on that issue. So I sort of assumed what you did, Tim, that we're moving ahead with the consultant. So yeah.
Good. Yeah, great. Good discussion. Any other unfinished business? Okay. Really under new business, all I wanted to do was just make you guys aware that I went to Spokane a few weeks ago for the annual State Commissioners Association meeting. And, I would encourage at some point, if you guys have the kind of time in your schedule and you have that flexibility as these conferences come around, you might want to consider going. They're not unlike a lot of conferences where some of the seminars are, more valuable than others. But by and large, I thought the different seminars were really helpful. A lot of talk about, district finances and fundraising. There was seminars on legislative updates, management versus governance, stuff that, is is really in our wheelhouse. So I found it valuable. Thanks for letting me go. And when they come around, I would just suggest you consider going.
Thank
Any
you for
other-
attending, Mark.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely consider that next time. Glad to hear it was valuable.
I think next year, if I remember right, it's going to be on this side of the mountains. One of the casinos not too far from here, I think. I can't remember. Tulalip, maybe?
Probably the Tulalip. Yeah, that's their
Yeah.
usual spot.
So a little bit closer, might be easier to get to.
Perfect.
Any other new business? Correspondence, the only thing I'm aware of is the letter that we've put together in response to District 21's request on what we're doing to, secure funding, our ability to pay for the contract, these kinds of things. So I think you've all had a chance to review it. And
Mark, I don't recall I don't recall mentioning the hiring of this consultant, probably because we hadn't done it yet. But is that something maybe we could add to the letter, letting District 20 know this is a significant thing we're doing to move forward?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're
Okay.
100% right. That, and then the only other thing I was wondering, Jason, if we're going to be pushing back when we think we have it on the ballot, is there anything in this letter that would need to also be adjusted?
I was just looking at that, trying to figure out if it says, early 2023 or.
I guess, other than those two things, I'm happy with it. Maybe before we sent it off, we could include this additional not insignificant step we're taking by hiring a consultant, and then just make sure the dates line up with what we now understand the dates are going to be with what Liz told us.
Correct. Yep.
Great.
I'll just add a line that the district is, and I just put the district is contracting with Liz Loomis Public Affairs. She has recommended an August 2023 levy date, and just leave it at that and let her experience and resume speak for herself.
Do we, yeah, go ahead, Tim.
I do believe we've got a line in there. I don't have it in front of me at the moment about starting the public outreach in November. So we'll need to revise that a little bit.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tim. We should take that out.
So how do you guys want to do this? We could ask Jason to, redraft it, and then we'd all take a look at it, or we can, to expedite things, we can always suggest to him to just add what we've just talked about, and then send it. How much in the weeds here or oversight do we feel we need at this point?
Well, if the chief has the time, that would be fine with me. I'm also willing to help with that if others don't have the time. So whatever assistance I can provide.
How about if I just, Jenny and I will retool these two short paragraphs to include Liz Loomis, and that one of her key principles is public outreach, and that, and then the August levy lid lift, her recommendation of an August levy lift. And then I'll send that out to you for individual approval, and then I'll link up with Commissioner Land and we'll get his signature on it.
Perfect.
Okay.
That sounds good to me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. That takes us to just checking the calendar for the next board meeting on December 12th. We could just all take a look real quick. Works for me. Anybody have a problem with that?
No, looks
Nope,
good.
my calendar's cleared. Yep.
Okay. Great. I don't have anything else. Did I miss anything, Jason, or does anybody
No,
else
sir.
have anything we need to talk about? My apologies that the meeting went significantly longer than usual, but we had a lot of important business to talk about. So thanks everybody for sticking it out.
Absolutely.
And if there's nothing further,
Yep.
I would suggest we are adjourned.
Just remind everybody signing stuff's in the drawer there
Right.
at Station 12. So, and I'll,
Yep.
Commissioner Land, once I get the thumbs up from the other two, I will set up a time to come get a signature from you.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks.
Thanks,
I won't be there.
everybody.
Mine won't be till late tonight, Chief. I won't
Okay.
be back in town till late tonight, but I'll get it done
Okay.
tonight. Okay.
I'll, yeah, I won't go down there till tomorrow morning. So,
Yeah.